Is anyone else feeling it lately? It's like this new energy. It's not heaviness. I felt that before in the collective. I'm used to that. It's not exhaustion. This is entirely new, and I can't quite give it a name. There's no label for this. Does anyone feel this with me? For today's message, a specific who this is for is being presented. So get comfortable, take a seat. Let's jump in. A really specific example, first and foremost, comes to me, and you guys are going to laugh at this. What's coming up first is a person, and they're paying subscriptions, as we all do. We all pay subscriptions. We all have our Netflix, our Spotify. We all have our little things we pay every month. But the thing that's being highlighted by Spirit, by Source, is that they are never owning anything. They are simply paying these subscriptions. There's a million out there. I think we can all relate to this. What it's really highlighting here is an awareness to paying for subscriptions and then never owning anything, but it's also directing towards paying inconvenience. What's really interesting, I think, about this example that Spirit's giving is it's not about the payment. It's not about the subscription itself. We all can relate to that in some way, shape, or form. This is the appearance of control that doing this brings. And that's what's being really brought to the surface here. For example, the person that I'm seeing is what seems to be under the impression that they can cancel anytime they feel. And so they, in their mind, have the control. They have the power. But interestingly, seeing past that, seeing a larger context of the situation is like they never actually cancel, because the weight of canceling means they have to go to the source and do the work to own whatever it is they're paying for. And that is a burden to them. So they're paying for the convenience. Again, here we are talking about convenience. So very specific. First off, this could be very literal. And I'll make sure to leave my notes in the description, as always, for all of you, because I see there might be a lot here for this theme. But you could literally be noticing subscriptions, and maybe you haven't really cared a lot in the past, and now there's like a deeper concern about how many subscriptions you're holding. You could be feeling, desiring, wanting to own something at this point. Like you want those physical things again, and it seems like it's difficult to access those physical things nowadays because convenience is king. And so this might show my age, but I remember a time when we were all on LimeWire and we were downloading songs on iTunes, and that was just like the norm to like do this completely illegal thing. And like instead of paying for subscriptions, there was no such thing as subscriptions when I was a kid. And so those songs in iTunes, we owned those for as long as we wanted. They were there forever. They were permanent. And in a very non-literal sense, in the figurative way that this is coming through, like the energy, this is pointing towards a group of people, very specific today, who are what looks like being pushed towards ownership in some way of something. And it'll be kind of a small group, I think. But the focus here is this group of people who this is for. This collective is meant to build something from the ground up instead of relying on it being built for them. And that's coming into their consciousness, their awareness very slowly, or has been for a little bit. So in terms of who this is for, you might be the type that is crafty in the sense of you work around things in your own very unique way. This could show up in so many ways, but a good example, I think, one that's being presented to me is like the mindset of an extreme couponer. Instead of focusing on building money through a job, the conventional means of like a job, they make their job in the sense of crafting value through saving. It's very unconventional. It's not like a normal job. So this doesn't look like the typical way we see earning. A couponer at the end of the year, though, could have saved just as much as what a part-time or full-time employee could have brought in. And so what that's highlighting, this specific person, doesn't have to be that exact example, but they're thinking outside the box. They're building their own structure. The effect is the same. It just looks different. It's unique to what they want, what they desire, what they're looking at. And so I'm not saying this message is for extreme couponers necessarily, although you could be interested in something like that. I'm saying this is for a very small group of people who create their own systems. They are thinking in very unique ways and they make things work for them. They're not just working off a system that's pre-built. And so They aren't following or they don't want to follow normal paths, and it can confuse a lot of people around them. Like in the couponers instance, like I mentioned, people could think that they're avoiding work or being lazy. There could be so many assumptions just because they don't fit into a normal job. They don't fit into that box that's already established that shows they're more employable, but they have the same exact effect, if not better. And so hopefully this paints a very clear picture. This message is for those types of people. There is a specific thing that you are being guided towards, and I think this message is going to give a real clarity on that. But first, I needed to explain who you are, and that can be very difficult because really you are outside of the box. You are not meant to fit inside of it. This is like my era of random things coming into messages so people online can think that I'm insane. I'll definitely be leaving all the details in the description so we don't spend too long on them or I don't get too off track, because sometimes I'll just go down a rabbit hole of the things that come to me, and I like to stay at least a little bit more concise. Otherwise, I get derailed too easily. But this thing that's coming through now is nose sensitivities. So you could have more of an acutely sensitive ENT, ear, nose, and throat passage. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's just like your sinuses. That's coming through very strongly. It doesn't have to be like literal, I don't think, in that sense. But what I see this being energetically is the facial space being where your energetic pressure builds and finds its release points. So your sinuses might be overactive. They might be flaring, or you could experience this after this reading as like your confirmation. If you're not now, I'll again leave it in the notes. There's some specific things here, but I just want you to know that there's an energy pressure that's finding its valve release through your facial areas. And it's more common, especially for those who this message is specifically for, is they might have that predisposition. So again, in the description, I'll be sure to write that all out for you. Another odd specific coming through is undoing, the act of undoing, which I know sounds kind of weird. It seems like very literal too. It's like focusing on the exact shortcuts we use for the undo function, like the computer, like Control or Command Z. I don't know if you all are familiar with the shortcut for undo. It's Control or Command Z usually. I'm not really sure about this one. This one feels literal. It feels like you have an occupation where that shortcut is required for you to do a lot, or you're very familiar with that shortcut. I don't know. But the relationship to this reading, where I'm trying to connect it, is a little bit difficult. It's unclear at this time. I think it's going back to the main themes that were presented at the beginning. I think it's connecting back to this theme of ownership that your spirit team is pushing onto you recently, or will be here very shortly in the future. You are being subtly pushed into ownership, like I mentioned, or building something, especially as related to working around the systems you've been placed in. You could have a keen interest in being not interested inside the box. And so you're almost forced to build outside in a way. I think it's important to, just on a side note, is that you know that not everyone around you is thinking around things like you are. It is very unusual to be thinking outside of the box because the box is what usually gives people comfort and security. And that's why the box is formed in the first place. People love the box, and to find the box constraining or to divert from it like you are naturally, it's so important because it's revealing to you how important your role is to society. It's very rare for people to divert from it, but almost always it's for a reason. It's showing you that you were meant to create new boxes, not only for yourself, but for others. And some of you might feel like a little bit displaced when I say that, like, Salt, I don't want to live for all these other people. I'm just trying to survive, and I don't want to be noble or sacrifice for the common good. But it's not really saying that necessarily. It's just saying, I think your guides are trying to show you something you've been struggling with is a result of how you haven't fully engaged with your purpose of building boxes for others in some way, or living outside of the box more authentically if you're on that path now. I see that once you fully have embraced this thing, things will align for you much easier. So this could be a confirmation, like I said again, if you have started looking at how to not only build something for yourself, but for others. But this is also a good nudge for those who haven't started thinking that way, but are just feeling constrained by the system they're in. It's very rare to feel that way. Like I said, normally the box brings comfort. So to even feel the slightest constraint that's pointing at something important, some of you I see here don't think this is a skill. You kind of see it as like a bad thing that you're feeling constrained by it. But I'm here to tell you that, man, this is not defiance that's causing you to look outside the box. It is a skill you were purposely given to create new boxes. I love how much I'm saying the word box. I think the word of the day is box. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal, but you need to hear this is like without people like you, there wouldn't be as many options as we have today. We would be even more confined. And so your path here is important because it reminds others that there are paths. And without you, they wouldn't be able to see those paths clearly because they're not looking like you're looking at the world. And even if you're not meant to build something like world defining, maybe you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I feel like I have purpose, but like I'm not called to build something. I see this kind of being like a two-part thing. It's either you were meant to build something or you were meant to lead by demonstration, meaning you show others that you are free outside the box. And by default, that wakes people up and shows them that it's possible, especially those not naturally thinking that it's possible. They need you in that way to live by demonstration because otherwise the light bulb would never turn on for them. And so there's a part of this message, I think, that's saying you are meant to show yourself freely. You were meant to live in a different way for others. And by doing so, your path, your reward becomes less difficult because it opens new doors and responds in a harmonious way that supports you being the light for others. Okay, so far, we know that you are meant to either build something completely new and show that to people, or you're meant to show yourself as the build. And both of these paths are supposed to be what looks like a light for others. That's the purpose. And it's confirmed to you very specifically, it's coming through here. I hate to be this specific, but it's just showing this way, is it's confirmed to you through how much friction is on your path. For example, if you feel a lot of challenge, a lot of closed doors, a lot of lack of opportunity, it is a sign you might not be fully embracing this outside of the box role here, this shining the light for others role here. The less friction and the more doors that you experience, the more aligned you are with your role to light the path for others. And it's strange because it's going to be immediately confirmed to you through how difficult or how easy your current path is. And I think that's because your guides are creating your own light as a way to guide you forward, since you are the light for others. Not everyone is given immediate feedback like this. This is important. You know that you have this opportunity of more immediate feedback because those who light the way for others get a light in return. It's not that they're just in the dark. Now, here's the other part of this message that I'm untangling here with you is this undo command, this Control Z, Command Z, whatever the shortcut is to undo an action that keeps popping back up into my head. This is showing emphasis on maybe in the past that it's felt scary in some way. Permanence. Permanence has felt scary in some way. Maybe the action of undoing has been what looks like a crutch here for you. You've kind of either taken comfort in knowing everything is reversible. It's almost comforting to you that nothing is permanent in this life, and you know that from certainty. And so what's interesting here is this message says to focus on permanence, to focus on what can't be undone, which I think is a heavy task because We're all taught that nothing is permanent. So, in realistic terms, the only thing that's really permanent is you and your higher self. You are what's permanent. And so, I think the permanency here is what you leave for others, you following your own path. It's not saying necessarily leaving a legacy or building something amazing and changing the world. I think it's just saying you're showing yourself so unapologetically, and that is your permanence. I often say that legacy is really the only permanent thing we have. It's the only real permanent option that we have is our legacy, is what we leave behind. And I don't think it's saying you're meant to build this amazing legacy and have all this pressure or your life doesn't matter. It's saying you are the select few who can actually imprint on the world in a way that would genuinely surprise you. It doesn't mean you have to. It means the way that you look at the world naturally aligns in some way that would leave a lasting impression, that would leave a legacy naturally. And this is especially true if you felt more isolated or alone in your life. That disconnection is kind of furthering you to continue this path of looking at things in an unconventional way, looking at things outside of the box, because it's natural for you to question the box when you're not molded with it with others. You're individualized, you're separated in some way, and that kind of helps you create new boxes, because if you weren't, you would be more of the common thoughts. Those common thoughts and perspectives would rub off on you more than your more isolated path. So these are all ways in which this is being confirmed to you through this message that you were meant to create these boxes or be this box. You don't have to do it, but there is a note here that harmony does follow you when you fully step into this power. If you are feeling like things are not harmonious right now or they could be better, this outside of the box leadership is the way to get more open doors, the way to get more harmony. And like I mentioned, you get instant feedback as you light that path, just because you don't get a light in front of you. Your guides are that light for you, so you can be that light for others. This is very much chosen one type of message today, but your role is so critical to the world. It really is. It helps people remember that they are not stuck, that they can free themselves, and that there are other paths. And you are the light that shows people that. And whether through building something outside of yourself or you're just meant to authentically show yourself moving differently, both of them have the same effect. They're both showing people that they don't have to be in the box if they don't want to be. There's other options out there. So today's message is more than just building up your physical DVD collection and canceling Netflix. I think it's saying the false security that the subscription model brings is telling you that you can cancel at any time. You have a false sense of security that you can do that you hold the power, but you don't ever cancel because you don't build while you're watching those subscriptions. So this metaphor for you today is saying the convenience trap holds the power over you. It takes away your power to build permanence. The message is pointing at not getting too comfortable in convenience, to where you don't seek permanence in some way, to where you don't seek out a legacy or leaving a lasting impression and impact on people. It's not pretending you're holding power and realizing power comes through building an action, not the thought that you could just cancel anytime and start building if you wanted to. It's kind of like moving now with it. What a loaded message. Sovereignty for you, though, comes by walking forward. Even if it means not having the music, not having the movies, it's just recognizing that thinking that you can cancel anytime is not actually the same as canceling and beginning to build and walk without the convenience. And some of this is specific, but some of this is open, I think, to your interpretation for a reason. This next section is Salt Talks. And for those of you who are new here, let me introduce something kind of weird before you decide to click away. Obviously, it's not part of the reading, but it is important if you allow it to be. I protect the space here, which means I respond to the majority and not a few here and there. So this is kind of a space where I comment back to you in a way that doesn't create outliers in the energy read. Feel free to listen if you're interested in some silliness, some learning more about me, or just having your questions answered and learning a little bit more about your collective soul family here. This is where you get kind of those things answered. And I usually leave the topics in the chapters. So you can always check out the topics to see if it's interesting to you before deciding if you want to watch. But that's coming up next, just letting you know. Welcome to episode 15. All right, guys. I got some good feedback about how to segue into Salt Talks better. So I tried it. I think I never expected to formalize like this. But now that it's formalized, it's been like this. I think it deserves an appropriate segue and introduction that doesn't feel so misplaced or jarring. I tried to help the friction a little bit more. It only took 15 episodes to get there, but we're getting closer. And it finally happened, you guys. After 14 episodes, I finally got my first Salt Talks criticism. I'm so baffled at how much you guys took to it and loved it. It was just something silly, and you guys were like, yes, more this. and so I kept doing it, waiting for the comments, waiting for you all to say, stop, please, you're embarrassing yourself. Stop now. But you never did until 14 episodes in, and I'm very genuinely surprised by that. It's like I finally got what I prepared for in a weird way, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was just like, this is a no for me, dog. Which is fair. It's totally fine. I know it's kind of weird, so it's not for everybody. I get it, because most of you are interested in the reads, right? You're here because you're introspective. You want to learn more about what's going on about yourself. And this is more of a space if you're curious about other people in your energy groups, if you're curious about me. And I think that takes a very specific type of person. But I guess I'll just never fully accept that this is something you're interested in. We'll be like at episode 100 and I'll be like, do you still have questions about me or for me? That's crazy. Okay, so let's see. Today's topic. I do get a lot of comments about how to tap into spirit, about how to hear spirit better. And I think this is such an important question, such an important thing to talk about. I want to dedicate a whole video to it because it's not as simple as 10 minutes of a salt talk could even touch the surface of. And I want to make sure it contains all the info for you guys. So more to come on that soon. I've heard you. I will be creating something for that. I just wanted to address that that's a huge topic. It's super important and I love it and I will be doing it for you all. Here's one. I think something I thought about recently is I do get a lot of questions about this communicational protection. I guess I really haven't dived into what happens for me and why I don't respond to comments. I mention it in every Salt Talks. I mention it in every outro that I protect the space and that I'm insane, but I don't really go into depths with what happens for me as an energy reader. And I get a lot of comments where people ask if all readers are like this. For example, some people have confessed that since they've started watching me and I've gotten more detailed for them, the more they've nudged me, now they apply that same logic to nudging other readers and commenting more on their videos. And I just want to say that it's not a one size shoe fits all. Every reader picks up energy differently. I don't think a lot of readers are communicationally as sensitive as me. For me, any and everything you send to me is like a delicate energy nudge in the sense where if I engage with one person who sends me something, I get more of their energy as a result, as a return of that engagement. And so I started picking that up really early in my journey on YouTube because I've never done collective readings like this specifically before. And so I noticed it was creating like outliers in groupings of energies that I was being given. My first couple of videos, I think I liked something, I responded to things, and then months after, I could still feel such a strong resonance for those specific groups. It's like I restricted hearing other groups and narrowed in on those is the only way I could describe it. And so I've noticed this applied to my personal life as well. It's kind of like what we focus on returns to us, but mine is more literal in the sense of like energy buckets coming back to me for readings. And so protecting the space here means being neutral to all energy you guys send to me and not focusing on one thing more than another. It's also kind of helping me remove my human brain bias. Like I'm actively working on not narrowing in on one comment just because I'm interested in that. I'm actively forcing myself to engage collectively, to engage neutrally. And so it's really just me trying to remove myself from the reads as best I can so I can get a clearer picture, less distorted, a less narrow view of the best interest for the collective, if that makes sense. And as for other readers, they don't seem to focus on it as much as me. From what I've seen, I could be wrong. It might just be that they aren't as affected, which is good for them because it surely simplifies the experience as a collective reader if they don't have to go to these types of lengths to show their audience that they care and love them. Like a simple heart or a reply is good enough in their case, and I'm happy for them. They're living their best lives. So I think I explained it as much as I really needed to in this episode. And maybe I'll refer back to this episode when people ask me questions. It kind of reminds me of when I made Sleeping Salt, my second channel for sounds that comes through for my collective. I made it on a whim and I never fully explained it. I just kind of like popped it in one day without a word silently. And I tend to do that, I suppose. I feel I did that here with this, is I just kind of never fully dived into why until now. And that's what these talks are for, is to give you more clarity on reasonings and explain those gaps that are kind of a little bit more complicated. On that note, please keep nudging me. Keep commenting. The comments do not have to be super specific. They do not have to be your whole life story. I can pick up on literally an emoji if that's what you give me. The reason I can be so detailed in my readings is through how amazing this community is at nudging me, constantly sending me their energy. And just remember, nudges are not like waiting in a line. It's not like I'm prioritizing other energies over you if you are feeling like my reads are not resonating. What is actually happening is divine timing. Even if I feel you so strongly, it might not be the time for you to hear something. So don't think that the nudges aren't working. I definitely still feel you, I promise. I love you guys so much. Cheers, friends.